Every morning, before the sun was fully up, Marcus Aurelius gave a speech. Not to the Senate, not to his legions, to no one but himself, alone in his tent, before a single visitor had been let in. And the substance of that daily speech was, on its surface, almost aggressively bleak. Today, he told himself, you are going to meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. It reads like the opening line of the worst day imaginable. It was, in fact, the opposite. A technique so effective that 2,000 years later, psychologists still recommend a version of it before difficult meetings, hard conversations, and family gatherings people dread. Today we're going to walk through the entire speech Marcus Aurelius gave himself every morning. Not just the famous first line most people quote, but the four-part argument that follows it. The reasoning that let an emperor surrounded by flatterers and rivals wake up without dread, and why the same speech still works on the people who annoy you today. Rome ran on a custom called the salutatio. Every morning, from the lowest client to the highest senator, people lined up at the doors of powerful men to pay respects, make requests, and angle for favor. As emperor, Marcus's version of this custom was the entire machinery of empire arriving at his door before breakfast. Senators managing their own ambitions, generals reporting selectively, petitioners with grievances, courtiers who had learned exactly which flattery worked on him. He could not skip the morning. He could not choose better people to fill it, and he could not simply retreat from public life the way a private citizen with the same complaint might. The empire's business did not pause because its ruler was tired of dealing with people. So he changed the one thing that was actually his to change, the sentence he told himself before any of them arrived. 1. The speech he gave himself before sunrise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Most people who quote this line stop right there, as if the whole point were simply to expect the worst. That is not what the line is doing. It is not a prediction dressed up as wisdom. It is a filter, delivered before the day has a chance to surprise him with it. Notice what he does not say. He does not say some of the people I deal with today, on a bad day, might possibly be difficult. He says the people, plural, will be guaranteed before a single one of them has walked in. The unpleasant behavior stops being news. It becomes the baseline he already priced in, the way a sailor prices in rough water before leaving harbor, rather than being shocked by the first wave. Picture two department heads walking into the same Monday morning meeting with a colleague who reliably interrupts, takes credit, and complains. One of them has spent the weekend dreading it, hoping today will somehow be different. The other has quietly told themselves, walking in, that the interruption and the complaint are simply what this particular morning contains. Not an insult aimed personally at them, just weather. The second person leaves the meeting roughly the same as they entered it. The first leaves it wounded, because the day did exactly what the first day always does, and they were not braced for it. Notice, too, what the line does not ask of him. It does not ask him to pretend the meddling and the dishonesty are fine, or to greet them with a forced smile. It only asks him to stop being surprised by weather he has seen every single day of his reign. Surprise, not the behavior itself, is the part that actually does the damage. 2. They can't tell good from evil. The speech does not stop at the prediction. Marcus immediately gives himself the reason behind it. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. This is the part almost everyone skips, and it is the part doing the real work. Marcus is not calling these people irredeemably bad. He is diagnosing something closer to a blind spot, an inability to see clearly what actually serves them and what harms them, which is precisely why they behave in ways that harm everyone around them, themselves included. A colleague who takes credit for your work is not, in Marcus's reading, a villain executing a clever plan. He is someone who has mistaken the appearance of success for the thing itself, and will spend years chasing a version of respect that never actually lands, because he is aiming at the wrong target entirely. This reframe changes what the behavior is evidence of. It stops being evidence that you are unliked, unworthy, or specifically targeted, and becomes evidence that the other person is, in a very literal sense, confused about where their own good lies. Picture two neighbors dealing with someone who is chronically rude at the mailbox. One decides the rudeness is a verdict on them personally and starts rehearsing comebacks. The other decides the rudeness is simply what confusion about good and evil looks like from the outside and stops taking notes on it. Only one of those two neighbors is still thinking about the mailbox by dinner. And notice what this reframe quietly protects Marcus from: the far more corrosive question of what must be wrong with him for them to treat him this way. If their behavior is confusion about good and evil, rather than an accurate verdict on his own worth, the question dissolves before it can even take root. 3. None of them can implicate me in ugliness. Here the speech turns from diagnosing them to defending himself, and the claim is a strong one. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness. Read that last sentence slowly, because it is doing more than offering comfort. Marcus is not saying their behavior won't be inconvenient, costly, or occasionally dangerous. He ran an empire and knew exactly how much damage petty, confused people can do. He is saying something narrower and more precise. Their confusion cannot become his confusion. Their ugliness cannot migrate into his own character just by being near it, unless he lets it in by matching it. A senator's flattery does not make Marcus vain unless Marcus chooses to believe it. A courtier's dishonesty does not make Marcus dishonest unless he responds to it in kind. The wrongdoing stays where it started. Think of someone who is lied to at work and spends the following week telling small defensive lies of their own to compensate, versus someone lied to who simply continues telling the truth, unaffected. The first person has let the wrongdoer implicate them in exactly the ugliness Marcus is describing. The second has not. The event was identical. Only one of the two characters actually changed. This is also why Marcus can afford to call the wrongdoer's mind related to his own, sharing, as he puts it, a share of the divine. The claim is not a compliment to their character. It is a statement about the raw material every person starts with, which makes their confusion a malfunction of something originally good, rather than proof of something irredeemably separate from him. 4. We were born to work together. Having defended himself, Marcus makes the least intuitive move in the whole speech. Instead of concluding that difficult people should be avoided, he concludes the opposite. Nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower. To obstruct each other is unnatural. He is not speaking metaphorically about actual family. He means every person he meets that morning, meddling or not, is built into the same cooperative structure he is, the way your upper and lower teeth are not competitors, but a single working system, useless and self-defeating the moment they start working against each other instead of together. This is a genuinely strange thing for an emperor to tell himself about senators angling against him, and that is exactly the point. He is not naive about their motives. He is correcting his own instinct to treat them as enemies, rather than as flawed collaborators in the same undertaking. Picture a team where one member consistently misses deadlines. The instinct is to mentally file them as an obstacle to route around. Marcus's instinct runs the other way. The missing deadlines are a malfunction inside a system that is still, at bottom, one system, not two competing ones. A hand does not declare war on a foot for moving slowly. It works around the limp until the foot heals, because they were never actually separate in the first place. This is the part of the speech an emperor had every incentive to skip. Surrounded by people angling against him, the easier story would have been us versus them. Marcus keeps choosing the harder, truer story instead. Still one body, even when a limb is behaving badly. 5. To turn your back on him is unnatural. The speech ends on its sharpest, most practical line, the one Marcus seems to have known would be the hardest for himself to keep. to feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him. These are unnatural. Not merely unwise, unnatural, a violation of the basic design he has just spent 4 steps describing. This is the line that rules out the modern instinct to simply cut someone off, go quiet, and move on without another word, treat it as though it costs nothing. Marcus is telling himself, before the day even starts, that the silent withdrawal is not the neutral, harmless option it feels like from the inside. It is its own small, unnatural act, the same category of malfunction as the anger it is supposedly the calm alternative to. Picture someone who has been slighted by a friend and responds not with a confrontation, but with a slow, wordless fade. Fewer replies, shorter visits, no explanation ever given. It feels, to the person doing it, like taking the high road. Marcus's speech would call it the same obstruction as open hostility, just quieter and slower. The 2 rows of teeth no longer meeting, even if neither side ever raises its voice. The alternative he is rehearsing every morning is neither confrontation nor withdrawal, but something harder than both. Staying in the working relationship, teeth still meeting teeth, without either matching the ugliness or exiting the room. This is, notably, not the same as staying in every relationship regardless of harm. Marcus dismissed advisors and punished genuine crimes throughout his reign. The unnatural act is the silent, unexplained withdrawal used as a substitute for that honest reckoning, not the reckoning itself. So what did Marcus Aurelius actually accomplish, alone in a tent, before anyone else was awake? He was not talking himself into liking difficult people, and he was not pretending their behavior didn't matter. He gave himself a filter that removed the surprise, a diagnosis that removed the personal insult, a boundary that kept their confusion from becoming his own, a structure that reframed them as collaborators rather than enemies, and a warning against the quiet exit that feels like peace but functions like the same unnatural break as open anger. 5 moves, delivered as a single short speech, repeated every single morning of his reign, to the same unimpressed audience of 1. If you gave that same speech to yourself tomorrow morning, before you opened a single message or walked into a single room, which of the people you're already dreading would still have the power to ruin your day by the time you finished saying it? If this changed how you think about the people you deal with tomorrow, subscribe to Above Average, where we explore the psychology and philosophy of the thinkers who saw what most people never do. Thanks for watching.